That night on my birthday, my wife's sugar baby, a college student, sent me a photo. In the photo, my wife is lying naked in his arms, her flushed face still lingering with the redness. She loves me. Why can't you just let go? I looked at the photo with a blank expression and forwarded it to my wife. Is this what you wanted? Fine, I'll let you have each other. She forgot that the marriage agreement with me was something she had longed for and prayed for. Since she loves freedom so much, I'll give her the freedom she desires. At midnight, Jiang Nian still hadn't come home. I picked up my phone and called her. The first time, no one answered. The second time. The third time. It wasn't until the seventh call that the phone was finally answered. Before I could say anything, Jiang Nian's impatient voice came through. Are you done, Zhu Ziyi? Are you really that annoying? The background noise was the deafening sound of a beat. But it was nothing compared to the harshness of her cold words. I took a deep breath, gripping my phone tighter. It's already midnight. Don't forget how you promised me back then. My tone was flat, but my heart couldn't calm down. Jiang Nian and I were already married, only the wedding remained. But right at this critical moment, she had fallen in love with someone else and refused to return to our home. I knew I couldn't stop her. So, I made a request. I said, give me 1 month. During this month, we would act as if everything were the same. After a month, if she still didn't remember our past or felt no affection for me, I would agree to a divorce. Yes, Jiang Nian lost her memory. After a car accident following our marriage, she suffered a head injury. She forgot everything, including her feelings for me. Then, Jiang Yuchen appeared. Jiang Nian fell deeply in love with him. She introduced him, a college student, to their high society circles, buying him cars and houses. Living in extreme luxury. Jiang Yuchen's scheming was also terrifyingly deep. Somehow, he added me on WeChat. He constantly boasted about his time with Jiang Nian. Late at night, he would send me various essays and photos. Zhu Ziyi, Jiang Nian and I are sincere, please stop bothering us. She doesn't love you. Why can't you let go? Is it really a good thing to be tied together by a family marriage alliance? Will she be happy? Family marriage alliance. What Jiang Yuchen didn't know was that in our marriage, I was the one who was passive. She was the one who pursued me. Our families had always been close friends, and Jiang Nian and I were childhood sweethearts. If it weren't for that car accident, Jiang Nian and I would have stayed happily married. But reality doesn't have ifs. When I said I was willing to divorce, Jiang Nian hesitated repeatedly. For her and Jiang Yuchen's future, she reluctantly endured her disgust for me and agreed. I also made 2 conditions. First, she must come home by midnight. Second, during this month, she cannot engage in intimate actions with anyone of the opposite sex. If she couldn't do that, I would firmly refuse the divorce. But only a few days had passed. Zhu Ziyi, get this straight, even though I'm legally your wife, I don't love you at all. What right do you have to make demands? On the other end, Jiang Nian scoffed. Don't you know? Every time I come home and look at your face, I just feel disgusted. She didn't care at all about how her harsh words might hurt me. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself not to lose control. From the phone, a displeased male voice sounded, with a hint of a spoiled tone. Jiang Nian, if you keep calling, I'll really get mad. Come on, 3 drinks as punishment, and I'll forgive you. It was Jiang Yuchen. Then, in a tone of extreme affection and tenderness, Jiang Nian laughed and said, okay Tilder, I got it, little jealous guy. After that, her tone turned cold again. Do you have anything else? Don't bother me if you don't. I coldly responded, Jiang Nian, don't forget our agreement. Either come home now, or I'll come pick you up. Otherwise, don't ever think about divorcing me. There was silence for half a minute on the other end before Jiang Nian viciously cursed, you're such a disgusting person. Jiang Nian finally compromised. When I arrived at the bar, she was surrounded by a group of young, rich second-generation heirs. They were all well-known playboys in the circle. Before losing her memory, Jiang Nian had never interacted with these people. She felt they were just a bunch of good-for-nothings relying on their elders' favor. But after losing her memory, she had become one of them. Soon, someone noticed me. Yo, isn't he this Jiang Nian's husband? The person sneered, "What's going on? Ju Xiao is here? Are you afraid your wife is staying out late and came to pick her up?" The crowd burst into laughter. Only Jiang Yuchen, sitting next to Jiang Nian, had a darkened expression. It was expected. He was the one who was trying to steal my wife. How could he laugh at a joke like that? He glared at me with a fierce look, his eyes filled with suspicion and unwillingness. Jiang Nian, sitting in the middle of the booth, showed no other expression except impatience at my arrival and the others' jokes. She gently sipped her drink and spoke with a slight pout, such a mood killer. I forced myself to ignore her disgust and softly said, "Let us go, it's time to go home." Jiang Yuchen immediately put on an innocent look and pulled her arm, acting spoiled. "Sis, I'm not done yet." Jiang Nian's face was filled with pity, and she hurriedly hugged his head, comforting him in a soft voice. The two of them were tangled in each other, completely ignoring the world around them. I stood to their side, looking like the villain trying to break them apart. Even the surrounding rich second-generation heirs couldn't stand it anymore. But they weren't standing up for me, they were just trying to add fuel to the fire. "Ju Xiao, we're having fun here, and you suddenly disrupted everything. That's not very appropriate, is it?" The person picked up a bottle of foreign liquor and looked at me jokingly. "Of course, bro, I understand that you're protective of your wife. So, here's the deal, you drink this bottle of liquor, and you can take her home." I frowned, about to refuse, but Jiang Nian, watching the drama unfold, couldn't he care less. "Our families have business dealings. I came here for cooperation today. If he doesn't agree, I really can't leave." She pulled her arm from mine and returned to the booth, watching me with interest, eager to see how I would handle this. Although our relationship was currently strained, Jiang Nian's family had always treated me well, and I couldn't do anything to harm their company. Clearly, they were deliberately making things difficult for me. But if I didn't drink, they could easily cause trouble in the cooperation with Jiang's family. I picked up the bottle of liquor and could already feel my stomach turning from the smell. I had suffered from a stomach condition for many years, even being hospitalized several times. Back then, Jiang Nian had taken care of me, learning how to cook all sorts of stomach-friendly dishes. She, a young lady, would wear an apron and clumsily learn to make food for my health. "If you don't behave and get hospitalized again for your stomach, I'll go out and eat junk food and mess up my own health." Back then, she had stared at me, as if my health was her everything. The person from the past and the Jiang Nian in front of me overlapped, but couldn't merge into one. Under the mocking eyes of Jiang Nian and the others, I raised the bottle and brought it to my lips. "Fine, I'll drink." The liquor at the bar was of poor quality, difficult to swallow, and extremely strong. After just one sip, cold sweat broke out on my forehead, and my face turned pale. The sharp pain in my stomach made me gag. The rich second-generation heirs dared not continue, as my status was much higher than theirs. The person in charge quickly waved his hand. "All right, bro, you're a man, don't drink anymore." Jiang Nian shot him a glare, pouting. "How boring." After saying that, she stood up. "That's it for today, I'll leave now. Liu Xiao, we'll continue our cooperation talks tomorrow." Jiang Yuchen still held her hand, looking aggrieved, as if she could cry at any moment. I struggled to hold back my disgust, stepped forward, grabbed Jiang Nian from his hand, and strode out of the bar. But as soon as we got home, Jiang Nian broke free from my hand and suddenly shoved me. I was already feeling dizzy, and before I could react, I fell to the ground with a thud. The turmoil in my stomach was unbearable, and I threw up all over the floor. Jiang Nian's disgust toward me intensified. "Zhu Ziyi, you are truly despicable, going out of your way to find me. You're so shameless." As she spoke, seemingly in a fit of anger, she grabbed a vase from the table and smashed it against my forehead. Blood dripped down my forehead into my eyes. I lifted my head, feeling dazed, and for a moment, I seemed to see Jiang Nian from years ago. At that moment, a burning pain spread through my stomach. But despite everything, Jiang Nian stood coldly in front of me, watching me. Finally, she turned and went straight to the bedroom. I could only barely get up, called a cab to the hospital, had my forehead bandaged, and didn't return home. I fell into a deep sleep on the hospital bed. In my dream, I saw our past again. When we had just gotten together, Jiang Nian loved watching those melodramatic romance dramas. The love triangle, the amnesia plot, she insisted I watch them with her. After every episode, she would anxiously ask me, "Do you think you'll ever forget me, like those characters?" I would laugh and gently stroke her head. "Don't worry, no matter who I forget, I won't forget you." Jiang Nian would happily snuggle her head into my chest. Me too. But dreams are just dreams. They wake up eventually. The next day, I was blocked downstairs at the company by Jiang Yuchen. His eyes were full of jealousy. "You really have no shame. Who's shameless here?" I retorted coldly. Jiang Yuchen didn't respond, his eyes filled with dissatisfaction and malice. Then, he sneered. "Zhu Ziyi, I know the Zhu family's business isn't doing well, which is why you're still clinging to Jiang Nian. You just want to tie the Jiang family to your sinking ship. But unfortunately for you, the one she loves now is me. It's the mistress who's not loved, understand?" I raised an eyebrow and looked at him. "So, you're here to show off in front of me. Last night, I took Jiang Nian away from him, making him unhappy, so today he was here to seek revenge on me." I couldn't be bothered with his nonsense and turned to walk away. Suddenly, he rushed up and grabbed my arm. I lifted my hand, and he fell to the ground. I frowned. He was that weak. Before I could speak, he suddenly put on a look of grievance, completely losing his previous aggressiveness. "Zhu Xiao, I know you dislike me, but there's no need to specially call me out to humiliate me, right?" He covered his wrist, gritting his teeth with stubbornness on his face. "You can treat me however you want, but I beg you, don't make things difficult for Jiang Nian. She's free. She shouldn't be a sacrifice for your business marriage." He stood up, sighed, and gave a bitter smile, as if he had given up. "If it matters so much, I can leave your world and never appear again." The sound of hurried high heels echoed from behind. I didn't need to turn around to know that it was Jiang Nian. No wonder Jiang Yuchen suddenly changed his stance. It seemed these words weren't meant for me, but for Jiang Nian. Jiang Nian quickly walked up to him. Jiang Yuchen, as if just noticing her, froze for a moment, lowered his head, and spoke with a trembling voice. "Sorry, Nian Jie, I didn't mean it. I just wanted to apologize to Zhu Ji, but I didn't expect that he." Jiang Nian comforted him almost instantly, then glared at me fiercely. "Zhu Ziyi, you're disgusting. Do you really want to go after him this badly? Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have money." She didn't give me a chance to explain and vented all her frustration on me. I suddenly felt deeply exhausted. Is our relationship overpowered by a guy she's only known for less than a month? Jiang Nian became more agitated, coming at me and tearing at my clothes, insisting that I apologize to Jiang Yuchen. Jiang Yuchen feigned a show of concern, standing up as if to mediate. We were tangled together, but suddenly, Jiang Yuchen pushed me hard, catching me off guard and sending me stumbling a few steps backward. The screech of tires reached my ears, and my mind went blank. The next moment, I felt my body pushed violently, and everything around me spun for a few moments before fading into a blur. Before I lost consciousness, I saw Jiang Nian running to Jiang Yuchen, holding him in her arms. Meanwhile, Jiang Yuchen looked at me coldly, his eyes full of malice. When I woke up again, I was back in the hospital. The doctors couldn't help but joke, 2 hospital visits in 2 days. You must be lucky. According to the doctor, fortunately, the car's brakes worked in time, so there were no serious injuries. However, the impact had caused a fracture in my left arm. As I was talking to the doctor, I heard my parents' voices in the hallway. Jiang Nian's parents were there too, and their words were full of reproach toward Jiang Nian. When the doctor mentioned that I was awake, my mom hurriedly wiped away her tears and ran in to hold my hand, asking if I felt any discomfort. The others heard the commotion and quickly followed. Jiang's mom had an apologetic look on her face. "I'm sorry, Xiao Zi. It's our Jiang family who has wronged you. Don't worry. I'll stand up for you. If Jiang Nian dares to let you down, I won't recognize her as my daughter." As the instigator, Jiang Nian just said a simple apology, then walked to the corner, lowering her head, saying nothing. I stared at her, feeling like something inside me shattered in that moment. I whispered, "Dad, Mom, Uncle, Aunt, please leave. I want to talk to Jiang Nian alone." My parents, always respectful of my wishes, got up to leave, though still worried. Jiang Nian's parents followed suit, with Jiang's father giving her a harsh glare before leaving. "You better get your attitude straight. Or don't blame me for being rude. Jiang Nian kept her head lowered, saying nothing. Soon, the room fell quiet. None of us spoke first. The atmosphere became heavy, almost suffocating. Finally, she couldn't hold back anymore, lifting her head with a flicker of regret in her eyes. Sorry, Yuchen didn't mean it. I couldn't hold it in and laughed. She had held back all this time, and the first thing she says is defending Jiang Yuchen. Why are you so sure he didn't mean it? Jiang Nian immediately frowned, her eyes full of displeasure. Clearly, she thought I was slandering her lover. But I didn't continue to argue with her on that topic. There are surveillance cameras at that intersection, so the police will naturally investigate the truth of the matter. I stared at her intently. I still couldn't forget the tissue when I was knocked down by the car. Her first reaction wasn't to call 120, but to rush over to comfort Jiang Yuchen. She maintained a serious face for a long time before suddenly speaking. Zhu Ziyi, I'm very sorry. You don't have to apologize. I interrupted her. The one who should apologize is Jiang Yuchen, isn't he it? She took a deep breath and continued, so, are you planning to hold on to this? I smiled bitterly and closed my eyes. After a while, I opened my eyes again, and there was no trace of emotion left in them. Jiang Nian, go away. Don't let me see you again. Jiang Nian hesitated for a moment, as if she wanted to say something, but I closed my eyes again and ignored her. She stood up, muttered another apology, and left without hesitation. I guess her little lover must need her comfort at that moment, so she didn't dare waste a second. I didn't forgive Jiang Yuchen. After Jiang Nian left, I directly accused him of intentional injury. Jiang Yuchen was detained. The police reviewed the surveillance footage, and though it was from a distance, it was clear that it was Jiang Yuchen who pushed me into the street. Just this alone was enough to sentence him to several years. Upon hearing the news, Jiang Nian almost immediately rushed to the hospital. She angrily kicked open the door to my ward and stormed in, demanding to know, Zhu Ziyi, what do you mean by this? She suddenly yanked my injured arm, her face full of anger. The nurse nearby quickly intervened. Madam, please watch your behavior. The patient is in recovery. The nurse firmly pulled Jiang Nian's hand away. Jiang Nian became even more enraged. You little nurse, how dare you tell me what to do? Do you believe I'll have you fired right now? I frowned, not wanting to involve anyone else in our issues. It's fine, you can go back to work. The nurse looked worried but left after I gave her a reassuring glance. What do you want? I quietly looked at Jiang Nian. She seemed a bit worn out, probably hadn't slept all night. Cancel the case, and then write me a letter of understanding. Jiang Nian commanded coldly, her tone still frigid. This is how you beg for something? I scoffed and shook my head. If the driver hadn't braked in time that day, I'd probably be in a crematorium, not a hospital. Jiang Yuchen's actions could be considered attempted murder. Whether it was intentional or not, it was still a crime. Jiang Nian furrowed her brows, growing impatient. Then you didn't die, did you? Is it enough that you didn't die? Besides, Yuchen is still young, it was just an accident. He's young, and if he ends up in prison, what will happen to his future? I just found it amusing. The Jiang family is rich, can't you just support him? Aren't you doing that already? Jiang Nian's face darkened. Spit it out, what compensation do you want? Compensation? Even though I was completely disappointed in her, hearing those two words still made my heart flinch slightly. When she lost her memory, I didn't break down. When she fell in love with another man, I still stayed determined. But at this moment, those simple two words felt like a sharp blade piercing through my heart. Ignoring the intense pain in my arm, I pushed her away. Jiang Nian, leave. Don't ever appear in front of me again. Jiang Nian opened her mouth, her eyes full of disbelief. I remained expressionless and continued, Jiang Yuchen is definitely going to jail. Even if you use the Jiang family's connections, you can't get him out of it. Accept it. Jiang Nian pursed her lips, her eyes full of coldness. Say a condition, as long as you sign the letter of understanding, I'll agree to anything. How ironic, not long ago she found me disgusting. Now, for another man, she's actually willing to say she'd agree to anything. I looked at her and suddenly laughed. Any condition? She clenched her teeth and nodded, any condition. I took a deep breath. All right, I want you to hold another wedding with me. Hearing our argument, the nurse at the door quickly notified my parents. In the end, Jiang Nian glared at me, snorted coldly, and left. When my mom found out about my plan to marry her, she cried uncontrollably. Son, why must you go through this? She sobbed. I felt bitter inside but still gently comforted her. Don't worry, Mom. I know what I'm doing. My parents were concerned and didn't want me to remain so obsessed with such matters. But I couldn't give up. I wasn't going to let them off their hook so easily. I had once doubted why Jiang Nian had lost her memory. Even if she had amnesia, why was she so cruel to me? And it was only toward me. I had asked her attending doctor, who vaguely suggested that Jiang Nian was in good health. There was no such thing as partial amnesia. That was when I realized Jiang Nian hadn't lost her memory. She had faked it too desperately. Even if someone had amnesia, how could their personality change so suddenly? Unless, of course, it was intentional. She didn't want to come back to me, so she pretended to forget me, to hate me. Since that was the case, I decided not to give her what she wanted. In the end, Jiang Nian agreed to my terms. The wedding preparations went quickly. Her parents were thrilled and took over all the wedding expenses, choosing the highest standards for everything. They believed their daughter had returned to her senses. But just before the wedding, Jiang Nian still hadn't shown up. I knew she was worried about Jiang Yuchen, so she had taken time to accompany him. I had experienced Jiang Nian's love. When she loved someone, she would give up everything without hesitation. For a brief moment, I even felt a little envious of Jiang Yuchen. 3 days before the wedding, Jiang Nian returned to her parents' home at their request. Today was the day we were supposed to take our wedding photos. At the bridal store, Jiang Nian remained expressionless the entire time, her eyes full of disdain and impatience. Even the staff were surprised. I pretended not to notice, and calmly put on the custom-made suit. Jiang Nian, with the staff's help, appeared in front of the mirror in her full bridal gown. I had imagined her in a wedding dress countless times. In fact, just as I had imagined, she was stunning, almost unreal. But at this moment, strangely, my heart didn't stir at all. Let us hurry up and take the photos, Jiang Nian urged impatiently. I turned to face her impatient gaze. It was the same face, but when did it seem like she had become a completely different person? All right. I smiled and nodded. At her insistence, we didn't even go to the studio. We quickly took the photos at the bridal shop. Afterward, she couldn't wait to take off the wedding dress and leave. The staff looked at me with sympathy, but I didn't care. Instead, I smiled and said to the manager, please send a copy of the photos to the Jiang family once they are developed. The wedding was grand. Although everything was rushed, it was all of the highest standards. Besides the family, many prominent figures from the business world had been invited. It was quite the spectacle. So even though Jiang Nian was reluctant, she had no choice but to play along in front of everyone. During the ring exchange ceremony, Jiang Yuchen appeared. At the entrance to the banquet hall, in front of everyone, he slit his wrist. Jiang Nian screamed and threw the ring away. Ignoring everyone's pleas, she rushed to his side. Yuchen, don't scare me. I'm not marrying anymore. I'm taking you to the hospital right now. She helped him up and was about to leave. The guests were in an uproar, and both families were furious. Jiang's father smashed his wine glass. If you leave now, I'll disown you as my daughter. Without looking back, Jiang Nian walked away. The much-anticipated wedding ended in this absurd way. After sending off the guests and returning home, I received a message from Jiang Yuchen. Zhu Ziyi, I won again. Just a few words, announcing his success, full of smugness. He even posted a video on his social media, where Jiang Nian was busy helping him, her face full of concern and pity. I turned off my phone and didn't pay any more attention. Later, I heard that Jiang Nian had knelt at the doorstep for an entire day and night, trying to make her parents accept Jiang Yuchen. No matter how they tried to convince her, it didn't work. Jiang's father was so enraged that his blood pressure skyrocketed, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. Jiang's mother, who had started off scolding her, was now left crying every day. Eventually, Jiang's mother called me. Xiaozi, I'm sorry, but we only have one daughter. Parents always hold their children close. I understood this well. So, I understood when Jiang's mother, who once said she would disown her daughter if she didn't marry me, changed her mind. I understand, aunt. Let us meet and talk. When I arrived at the Jiang family's house, I immediately saw Jiang Nian still kneeling at the door. Her face was full of determination. Jiang's mother stood by the door, wiping her tears and repeatedly persuading her. But Jiang Nian remained silent. When she saw me, Jiang Nian frowned. What are you doing here? I warn you, I won't marry you. Unless I die, you'll never get me to marry you. I calmly looked at her, and after a long pause, I smiled faintly. All right, I'll let you have your way. I took out the divorce agreement I had already prepared from my bag. Sign it. Jiang Nian hardly hesitated at all. Jiang's parents felt guilty towards our family, so they took a step back in business and allowed for a lot of profits to be given up. My dad didn't refuse. This matter was originally their fault, after all. As for me, I decided to leave my parents and go on a trip to clear my mind. My parents were very supportive of this decision. Even though I deleted all their contact information, their matters still seemed to reach my ears through friends. I heard that Jiang Yuchen proposed to Jiang Nian. The proposal ceremony was extravagant. It was even posted online by some well-meaning people. The drama of the domineering female CEO falling in love with me stirred almost all netizens. My mom, unable to bear it, kept introducing me to blind dates all day long. She seemed unwilling to see me being outshone by them. I couldn't refuse her persistence and agreed to meet the person. When I saw the delicate face across the coffee shop, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. My mom really spares no effort to get me into another relationship as soon as possible. The person in front of me was undeniably the top celebrity in the entertainment industry. The kind who is so famous that they are practically glowing. Without mentioning anything else, just her stunning beauty made me marvel in surprise. Hello, Mr. Zhu, I'm Liu Ruyan. I nodded politely. The famous Best Actress, of course, I've heard of you. She smiled and didn't delve deeper into this matter, instead asking about my preferences. At first, I thought the atmosphere would be quite awkward. But to my surprise, she was talkative, and I felt incredibly at ease with her. Half a cup of coffee later, I couldn't hold back my curiosity and asked, someone as popular as you still needs to go on blind dates? Liu Ruyan smiled helplessly. I can't help it. I'm just an ordinary woman, and when you reach a certain age, you naturally get urged to get married. This, I could deeply relate to. After all, I've been bothered by my mom too. After finishing our coffee, Liu Ruyan generously invited me to watch a movie. I didn't refuse. At the cinema, we didn't talk much, but once we came out, I clearly felt the distance between us had lessened. Just as I didn't expect, as we exited the cinema, I saw familiar figures in front of me. Jiang Nian and Jiang Yuchen. Our eyes met, and I suddenly felt dazed. It seemed like it had been so long since we last saw each other. So long that, in fact, I found the two of them a bit unfamiliar. Jiang Yuchen spoke first. Oh, isn't he this Zhu Zi? Long time no see. So, you're seeing someone? He was holding Jiang Nian's hand, smiling as he greeted us, but his eyes curiously scanned Liu Ruyan. It was understandable, as Liu Ruyan usually wore a mask and sunglasses in public to avoid trouble. I didn't respond. Liu Ruyan, seemingly sensing something, stood still and said nothing. Out of the four of us, only Jiang Yuchen kept talking non-stop. It seemed like he was acting like we were close friends, happily sharing details about his relationship with Jiang Nian. Zhu Zi, Jiang Nian and I are getting married in a while, and you have to come to the wedding, okay? Sure. I didn't refuse. Even though there was no longer any emotional bond between me and Jiang Nian, since our families still had business dealings, it was only proper for someone from my family to attend their wedding. Seeing that I didn't show any signs of resentment, Jiang Yuchen, realizing it was getting boring, pouted and stopped talking. But at that moment, Liu Ruyan suddenly linked her arm with mine. Well, then, congratulations to both of you. If there's nothing else, I'll excuse myself and say goodbye to my boyfriend. When Jiang Nian, who had been silent, heard this, her face immediately turned cold. I ignored her and pulled Liu Ruyan to the car. Before getting in the car, I heard Jiang Yuchen's somewhat jealous voice. Sis, why are you still staring at him? After that encounter, Liu Ruyan and I started meeting more frequently. Although Liu Ruyan hid it well, over time, rumors began to leak in the entertainment industry. The news that Best Actress Liu Ruyan was dating someone started spreading. Even paparazzi captured pictures of us having dinner together. Facing the cameras, Liu Ruyan didn't deny it but instead openly admitted. "Yes, but we're not just dating, I'm actually pursuing him." Her fans exploded. That night, I suddenly received a friend request from Jiang Nian. She had only one message: "Pack your things and leave." I was stunned, and only then did I realize. I typed a reply, "You can throw it away." She immediately replied, "I find it dirty." Was she calling me dirty, or was she referring to my things as dirty? I sneered, not understanding how she could say such things. The next morning, when I went to pack my things, Jiang Nian was actually at the house. Except for opening the door, she never gave me even a glance. She just coldly reminded me, "Move faster." I couldn't be bothered to make things awkward, so I went to the bedroom and quickly packed up the things inside. As I was about to leave, she suddenly called out to me, "Ju Zi. What's up?" I didn't turn around. She hesitated for a long time before coldly speaking, "Remember to close the door." After that time, Jiang Nian was completely removed from my world. I began to embrace a new life, and my interactions with Liu Ruyang became more frequent. We went skiing together, dove together, and even skydived together. She took on various public appearances, traveling across the country. Every time she returned, she would bring me local specialties. Inevitably, our meetings were photographed and leaked online. Upon learning about it, Liu Ruyang didn't resort to any public relations efforts. Instead, she proudly posted a photo of the two of us together. "My boyfriend doesn't like noise, so please be rational, and let us have some time for our love." This was, in effect, an indirect announcement of our relationship. I, too, didn't hold back and updated my moments with a picture of us hugging. Every day, I shared our daily moments on social media. Our friends and family showered us with blessings, believing I had found true love. Amid all the overwhelming likes and blessings, I seemed to notice Jiang Nian's like on the post. I just swiped past it without paying much attention. On our first New Year together, Liu Ruyang couldn't come home to celebrate due to work commitments. On the evening of New Year's Eve, she called to apologize. When my mom heard it was my future daughter-in-law calling, she immediately snatched my phone away, calling her Ruyang with great enthusiasm, completely ignoring her meal. I felt helpless when, just then, there was a knock at the door. I opened the door to find Jiang Nian standing there, her face red from the cold, as though she had been waiting outside for some time. She hesitated, forcing a stiff smile. "Won't you invite me in to sit?" "Not convenient." I refused without hesitation. "If you have something to say, just say it here." Jiang Nian's eyes dimmed. "I've come to apologize." "I'm sorry, Z. I shouldn't have treated you that way." I was powerless. I scoffed. "How? Have you remembered everything?" She hurriedly nodded. "Yes, I remember. You're my husband. I've already sent Jiang Yuchen away. When the time comes, we can go get our marriage certificate again." "Enough." I interrupted her fantasy softly. "Jiang Nian, some lies might fool others, but you shouldn't even fool yourself." Her face went pale. What do you mean?" I looked down at her. "What do you mean? Don't you know in your heart?" Jiang Nian finally realized her poor acting had long been transparent in my eyes. "You knew all along, so you did this on purpose." She suddenly became hysterical. "Did you always plan to leave me? That's why you put up with me being with Jiang Yuchen and divorced me, just so you could marry that jerk, right?" Slap. I raised my hand and slapped her. It was the first time in all the years we've known each other that I hit her. You hit me." Jiang Nian stared at me in disbelief. I wiped my hand and said expressionlessly, "Jiang Nian, as you said, I did it on purpose. But I just wanted to see if you still had any conscience. You pretended to have amnesia, let that clown dance around in front of me, and humiliated me in various ways, and now you shamelessly ask me to forgive you. Jiang Nian, you're really disgusting." The words she once said to me, I now returned them to her without any changes. Jiang Nian panicked. Listen to me, I was just confused. I was deceived by Jiang Yuchen. A poor student, what could he possibly deceive you about? I was completely unmoved. I had already investigated long ago. Jiang Yuchen's appearance was no accident. They had been involved since university. But due to our family agreement, they had to remain secret lovers. Even the car accident was carefully planned by the two of them. The goal was to force me to let go willingly. Jiang Nian, I don't understand. I spoke softly. Since you wanted to get rid of me so much, why come here and act like this now? Jiang Nian shook her head in tears. No, I didn't. I was wrong before. When I left you, I realized you're the one who truly loved me. Please, give me another chance. You didn't realize my good side. I smiled. You know, without me, you're nothing. Ever since Jiang Nian made her father so angry that he was hospitalized, my parents had completely lost faith in her. Not only did they remove her from her position at the company, but they also adopted a young boy, intending to groom him as their heir. Jiang Nian's position in the Jiang family had plummeted. Even her pocket money was only enough for basic living. From simplicity to luxury is easy, but from luxury to simplicity is difficult. Jiang Nian came to me because she wanted to use me to increase her influence in the Jiang family. I had already found this out. Ziyi, please, you have to help me. My parents are no longer supporting me. I can't live without you. Jiang Nian knelt on the ground, pleading with me over and over. The noise was so loud that my parents came over. When my mom saw Jiang Nian, the smile on her face immediately disappeared. It's Nian Nian. Why aren't you home for the holidays, coming here to kneel? Get up, auntie will get you a cab, and you can go home. Jiang Nian cried out. Mom, my father doesn't want me anymore. I know I was wrong before. Please help me talk to Ziyi and give me another chance. My mom was stunned. Your dad doesn't want you anymore? So, you're not the Jiang family's young lady anymore. Jiang Nian nodded pitifully. I thought my mom would soften, but the next second, she grabbed my arm and shut the door with a snap. My son is so excellent, how could he marry a second-hand, broken shoe like you? Both my dad and I were stunned. After a long pause, I gave my mom a thumbs up. Mom, you're awesome. After that day, I never saw Jiang Nian again. I heard she was pregnant with Jiang Yuchen's child. The Jiang family felt that having the eldest daughter of the Jiang family unmarried and pregnant was too shameful, so they decisively severed ties with her. And Jiang Yuchen, the man living off a woman, immediately distanced himself from her after she lost everything, turning to a wealthy lady in her 40s. The second time. In the end, by chance, she tricked Jiang Yuchen into coming out, killing him in a hotel. Then, she jumped from a building. Before she died, she sent me a text message. If there's a next life, I would still be willing to marry you. What's wrong, husband? Why are you in a daze? Liu Yang asked, smiling, holding a freshly cooked dish. I casually deleted the message. It's nothing. The past is finally in the past. I don't believe in so-called reincarnation. So, I just want to cherish the person in front of me.